This video demonstrates features available for debugging the service catalog. Link timecodes for these topics appear in the YouTube description for this video. When an error or broken functionality occurs in the service catalog, administrators can use several methods to debug it. First, let's look at how to debug issues on a service catalog page due to customized UI macros. In our example, the Exists in Categories section that normally displays here has disappeared from the page. We navigate to Debug UI Customization, and it's now enabled. When we return to the service catalog, the page displays with boxes around each macro within the page. The UI Page Customization Diagnostics window also displays, with a list of all the macros in the page and their state. Here in the Help window, we can see what each state means in terms of customizations. By pointing to a macro name, we can see its corresponding UI elements highlighted in pink. Let's reopen the standard laptop catalog item in debug mode, and we can see that this macro was skipped during the last upgrade, as it was customized before the upgrade. We want to look at the versions to see the original macro compared to the customized version. In our example, we've configured the form layout to display the versions list. We choose the two versions and select Compare. We click on an XML field and the code for both versions opens. Any script that's different between the two versions is highlighted. We can see here that the code that renders the categories has been commented out in the current version. We could edit the code here, or cancel this action and revert to the selected action using this button. Another option is to access the menu in the Recorded At field for the version you want, and selecting Revert to this version. When we return to the item page in the service catalog, we can see that the state for the macro we just reverted to is now unchanged. We're done debugging UI macros for now, so we navigate to Disable UI Customization Debug, and we can see that the debug is now disabled. Now let's see how to use the Variable Action Logger window to analyze client-side actions affecting the state and values of all variables on a catalog form. Once we've enabled the logger, we return to the service catalog page we want to analyze. In our example, the page loads with the Standard Productivity Suite checkbox selected, or set to True, and the Additional Software Requirements text field is read-only. When we set both checkboxes to false, the text field is set to Editable. If we set both checkboxes to True, the text field is still editable. But if we now clear both checkboxes, the field is set to Read Only, which is incorrect. Why is this happening? We can open the Variable Action Logger to see what scripts are running and the actions they're performing. Note that these logs are not stored anywhere in the database, as these functions are client-side only. We could filter this list by the type of script, but when we collapse the list, we can see we're dealing with just two UI policies for these fields, UI Policy 1 and UI Policy 2. We can expand individual list items or the entire list to see the fields affected by each script. The only field affected by both scripts is Additional Software Requirements, so we can infer that the error is a conflict between the two scripts. We can examine each script to determine where the conflict is occurring, and we can also examine each variable. We can also choose additional actions on the logs, including saving them to a file or printing them. Here we want to clear them so we can test a specific action on the form. And we can see that selecting the first checkbox triggered one action in UI Policy 1. When we're done debugging, we disable the logger so that it's not running in the background when we don't need it. Now we'll look at the Variable Watcher, which allows you to monitor the actions on a single field. We enable this option by right-clicking on a field's label and selecting Watch Variable. An icon appears to indicate that the field is being watched. When we manipulate other fields in the form, we can see how it affects the variable we're watching. We can configure the variable by accessing it here. And when we're done watching the variable, we right-click the field label to unwatch the variable. The last option we'll look at, Item Diagnostic Report, allows us to identify potential configuration or customization-related issues within Service Catalog items. We run the report here within the catalog item. The report displays a score and a list of probable causes for issues with the item. The lower the score, the better, and a score of 0 is ideal. In our example, the client script makes 2 AJAX calls and manipulates the DOM, or Document Object Model. We can examine the rule and see its weight in the score. A DOM violation here renders a score of 4. And here's the code in the script that triggered it. We can edit the code right here, or revert to a previous version. In our example, based on the overall low score, and by examining the code and the rules that triggered the violations, we can infer that these violations won't create user issues, but they may cause delays in loading the UI, for example. Duplicate variables within a catalog item, like in this example, are more likely to result in user issues and would generate a higher score. For more information, please consult our product documentation, knowledge base, or podcast, or ask a question in the ServiceNow community.